Today we're going to look at Unit 6.1, which is Domain and Range of Quadratics. We're first going to review some vocab. So a reminder, the vertex, with quadratics, we're looking at a parabola. So a parabola is a U shape, and the vertex is going to be that center of the parabola. So it could be the lowest point or it could be the highest point, depends on whether the parabola is facing up or down. So we're going to call it the turning point of the parabola. So it's when it turns from going up to down or down to up. And it's written as a point, so it's written as x comma y, so it'll be a number comma a number. The minimum is the lowest point of a parabola. So when your parabola is facing upwards, this lowest point, so this faced up, the lowest point is going to be the minimum. And this happens, later we're going to look at an equation, but a is normally the number in front of your quadratic. So if we have like ax squared plus bx plus c, when this a in the front is positive, that's when you have a minimum. So a is positive. The next term is a maximum. So maximum happens when your parabola is facing downwards, and it is the highest point on your parabola. So this faced down. So it is the highest point on parabola. And this happens when a is negative. Axis of symmetry is going to be the line that cuts down the middle of the parabola. So when we have our parabola, it's symmetrical. So that line that cuts through the center of it is your axis of symmetry. The line that cuts parabola in half. It also is always the x value of the vertex. So it's a lot of times abbreviated AOS. And it's when you write it, you're going to write x equals, and then it's going to be the x value of the vertex. And then y-intercept, hopefully we've known this for a while, but your y-intercept is where the parabola crosses the y-axis. And x-intercepts would be where it crosses the x-axis. So first example, state the vertex, min or max, axis of symmetry, and the y-intercept. So our vertex is that center point. So right here, so that's the point -2, -4. So we're going to write that as an ordered pair, so -2, -4. It's the lowest point, so it is a minimum. And the axis of symmetry is always that x value. So the way it's really drawn is it's like a dotted line that's invisible that cuts through the center of your parabola. And that's happening at x is a -2. So that's an equation, which is why we write it as x equals. The y-intercept, it is touching at 0, 0. So we're going to write that as the point 0, 0. Next example, I would recommend trying this before you watch the video. The vertex, once again, center of the parabola. That's at the point 1, 5. So we're going to write 1, 5. It's now the highest point, so it's a maximum. Axis of symmetry is a line that cuts through the center, and that's hitting at x equals 1, which is the x value of the vertex. And our y-intercept is happening here at 4. So that's at x equals 0, y equals 4. So when a y-intercept, the x value will always be 0. Example 3. Ooh, now they've given us the vertex, and they've told us, so now they want us to draw it. So we're going to graph this. So our vertex is at -3, +4, so we're going to plot that point. We know it's the minimum, so it's going to be the lowest point. Our axis of symmetry is at -3, so I'm going to draw my little dotted line down the middle. And then my y-intercept is at 5. So the cool thing about the axis of symmetry is that to get a third point to make our U shape, we're going to reflect this y-intercept. So I'm going to take that point, and I'm going to reflect it. It's now 3 spaces to the right of the axis of symmetry, so I'm going to go 3 spaces to the left, so even though it goes off the graph, and that's going to be where this point is. So 3 spaces to the right, so if it helps, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to erase those just so they don't confuse you, and then I connect the 3 points. I would recommend trying example 4 before watching the video. So first we're going to graph the vertex. So I'm going to go to 3, 1, put a point. It's a maximum, so I know it's the highest point, so that means it's going to be opening down. Axis of symmetry, I'm going to draw my dotted line through it. And then y-intercept is at -5 this time. So this time I'm 3 to the left of the axis of symmetry, so I'm going to go 3 to the right, so over here, and then connect my points. So I'm reflecting the y-intercept across the axis of symmetry. So this point reflects to create this point. All right, hopefully some of that was some review. Now we're going to look at domain and range. So domain are your x values. So I know we've learned this in previous classes, but it should be a good review. So domain is always going to go from the left to the right. So when we write it, it's going to be the farthest left point to the farthest right point. So remember, left, that direction, right is that direction. And then if there are arrows, it's going to have infinities. So parabolas, they always go forever to the left and forever to the right. So really with parabolas, it's always going to be negative infinity to positive infinity, because it goes forever left, forever right. Your range are the y values. So this, we're looking at how far down does it go to how far up it goes. So if it is facing upwards, so if we've got a parabola that looks like this, so faces up, how you're going to write it is a bracket, because it's including the y value of the vertex. So y of vertex. And then it's going to go up forever, because we've got those arrows pointing up. And with infinities, we always use parentheses. If it faces downwards, then it's going down forever. So we're going to start off with a negative infinity, and then it's going to stop at the y of the vertex. And once again, it's actually hitting it, so we're going to use a bracket. So actually hitting a number, bracket, infinities, parentheses. Other vocab we might use when talking about these are rising and falling. So rising is the arrow is pointing up. And falling, the arrow is pointing down. So for example 5, domain. Well, it's a parabola, so it's going to go, I know there's not actually arrows, there's invisible arrows on here. So it is going forever to the left, negative infinity, forever to the right, positive infinity. Then the range, the lowest y value it's hitting is a y value of 1, and it's actually touching it, so we do a bracket, and then it's going forever up, so it's going to infinity. We always use parentheses. Domain here, they didn't draw the arrows, but there's invisible arrows. It's going forever left and forever right. And then range, this time for down, it's going down forever, so negative infinity, and then it's stopping at y value of 5. So the highest point is 5, and that gets a bracket because it's actually touching 5. All right, last section. Example 7, we're putting it all together. So starting off, we've got the vertex. So vertex is that center point where it changes direction. That looks like it's hitting, so the origin is here. So we've got -2, 1, 2, 3, -3. So our vertex is at -2, -3. That is the highest point in the parabola, so it is a maximum. Axis of symmetry, it's cutting through here at -2, so x equals -2. Y-intercept is over here, it's hitting at -7, so it's going to be 0, -7. Domain, we've got those invisible arrows on here, so it's going forever to the left, forever to the right. Range, down to up, so lowest it's going is negative infinity. Highest it's hitting is at -3, and that is it's actually hitting it, so we get a bracket. If I'm going too fast, please pause the video. And then end behavior. So when this is the first time we've looked at it this way. So end behavior from the left, on the left side of this graph. So on this side of the graph, is that arrow going down or up? So it is going down, so it is falling. On the right side, this is the right side of the graph, and that arrow is also going down forever, so it is also falling. I'd recommend you try example 8 before watching the video, so if you want to pause it and then watch after you've tried it. So vertex, we've got 1, -2. So starting down here. Oh, so now we're doing the opposite. So now we're actually drawing it and then answering questions. So we've got our vertex. That is the minimum, so I know it's going to be facing upwards. Axis of symmetry. Y-intercept is at -1. So y-axis, -1. I'm going to reflect it. So right now it's 1 to the left, so I'm going to go 1 to the right to create my third point. And then we can draw a parabola. And those points make a parabola facing up, so we know we did it right. Domain, we should all know this by now. It's going left and right forever, so -infinity to positive infinity. Range, how far down to how far up. So the lowest point it's hitting at is -2. So bracket, it's going up forever, so infinity in parentheses. And then this time for my end behavior, the left side is going up forever, so it's rising. And the right side is going up forever as well. Something you should notice with a parabola is the end behavior on the left and the right should always be the same. All right, that is 6.1. So why don't you guys try the practice and let us know if you have any questions.